Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the command center window, watching Earth's moon slowly turn in the distance. Luna Base had been humanity's main military station for 20 years now. The blue marble of Earth hung in the black space beyond, peaceful and quiet. Jake never got tired of looking at his home world. The morning had started like any other. Coffee in his office, reports from patrol ships, meetings with his staff. Nothing seemed different. The alien ships from the Confederation moved through, their usual routes around the solar system. They had been there so long that humans barely noticed them anymore. That all changed when the message came in. Admiral Morrison to the main communication room, Priority 1, the voice echoed through the base speakers. Jake had heard that tone before. It meant trouble. He walked quickly through the metal corridors of Luna Base. Other officers stepped aside as he passed. Some tried to salute, but Jake waved them off. Whatever was happening, it was big enough to skip the usual military manners. The communication room buzzed with activity. Dr. Lisa Carter stood near the main screen, her face pale. She had worked with the Alien Confederation for 8 years as Earth Science Officer. Jake had never seen her look so worried. "What do we have, Doctor?" Jake asked. Lisa turned to him. Her hands shook slightly as she held a data pad. "Admiral, we just received a direct transmission from the Confederation Council. It's an ultimatum." Jake felt his stomach drop. In 30 years of working with the aliens, Earth had never received an ultimatum. The Confederation had always been firm but fair. They set rules, and humans followed them. It was simple. "Show me," he said. The main screen lit up with the image of the Confederation Council chamber. 12 different alien species sat in a circle. In the center stood the arbitrator, a tall crystalline being that spoke for all the others. Its voice came through the speakers like broken glass. "People of Earth," the arbitrator began. "The Confederation Council has made a decision about your species. You have been part of our alliance for 30 years. In this time, you have shown concerning patterns of behavior." Jake crossed his arms. He didn't like where this was going. The arbitrator continued. "Your species advances too quickly. Your military grows stronger each year. Your people explore space with dangerous curiosity, most troubling. Your history shows a pattern of violence and conquest that worries the Council," Dr. Carter whispered to Jake. "They've never brought up our history before. Something has changed. Therefore," the arbitrator's voice grew colder. "The Council demands the following. Earth must surrender all military vessels to Confederation control within 72 hours. All orbital defense platforms must be dismantled. All weapons research must stop immediately. Earth will accept permanent Confederation oversight of all government decisions." The room went dead silent. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the gut. These weren't just new rules. This was complete surrender. "If Earth refuses these demands," the arbitrator finished, "the Council will take corrective measures to ensure galactic peace. You have 72 hours to comply. This transmission ends now." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Captain Ben Rodriguez burst into the room. He commanded the EDF flagship New Horizon, currently patrolling the outer system. His face was red from running. "Admiral, we've got a problem," Ben said, breathing hard. "Our long-range sensors are picking up massive fleet movements on the system edge. Way more ships than usual." Jake turned to the tactical display. Red dots appeared all around the solar system's border. More red dots than he had ever seen before. Ships from dozens of different alien species all moving toward Earth. "How many?" Jake asked. "At least 500 ships that we can detect," Ben replied. "But sir, these readings don't make sense. Some of these ship types we've never seen before, and they're all heavily armed." Dr. Carter studied her data pad. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the Confederation's behavior patterns for years. This ultimatum breaks every diplomatic protocol they've ever used. They always negotiate first. They always give warnings before demands. This is completely different." Jake walked to the big window again. Earth looked so small and fragile from here. Somewhere down there, 4 billion humans were going about their daily lives. They had no idea that their entire future had just been decided by aliens in a distant council chamber. "Sir," said Lieutenant Danny Cooper, the youngest officer in the room. "What are we going to do?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his daughter living in New York. He thought about all the human colonies on Mars and the asteroid belt. He thought about the proud ships of Earth's fleet, small but well built by human hands. "Get me Ambassador Helen Wright on the line," Jake finally said, "and contact all ship commanders. Emergency meeting in 1 hour." "Yes, sir," Danny replied, running to his station. Dr. Carter moved closer to Jake. "Admiral, I need to tell you something. I've been studying Confederation species for years. When they give ultimatums like this, it usually means they've already decided to use force. The 72 hours isn't really a deadline for negotiation. It's time for them to get into position." Jake looked at the tactical display again. More red dots appeared every minute. The aliens weren't just making threats. They were preparing for war. "How long do you think we could hold out?" he asked Ben. Ben studied the numbers on his screen. "Against 500 ships? Admiral, we have 43 combat vessels total. Our orbital platforms are strong, but they are designed to stop pirates and small raids. This is an invasion force, so we can't win," Jake said. "Not in a straight fight," Ben admitted. "But Admiral, humans don't always fight straight. Fights." Jake almost smiled at that. Ben was right. Human military history was full of smaller forces beating bigger ones through clever tactics and pure stubbornness. But this was different. This was space combat against aliens with technology centuries ahead of human science. Ambassador Wright's face appeared on a side screen. She looked exhausted. "Admiral Morrison, I've been trying to reach the Confederation Council for the past hour. They won't take my calls. Every diplomatic channel has been closed. I've never seen anything like this." "Helen, what's your read on the situation?" Jake asked. "Honestly, I think they've been planning this for months, maybe years. The timing, the fleet movements, the complete communication shutdown. This isn't a sudden decision. They've been preparing to do this to us." Jake felt anger building in his chest. For 30 years, Earth had followed every Confederation rule. Humans had limited their military, shared their technology, and tried to be good galactic citizens. And this was their reward. "Admiral," Dr. Carter said quietly, "there's something else. I've been monitoring Confederation communications for years. In the past month, they've been using new encryption methods. They've been hiding something from us." "What kind of something?" Jake asked. "I think they're scared of us," she said. "Really, scared." Some of their internal messages talk about the human problem and containing rapid advancement. I think our technology has been improving faster than they expected, and that terrifies them. Jake thought about this. Earth ships were still weaker than alien ships, but the gap had been closing every year. Human engineers were creative and stubborn. They found solutions to problems that alien computers said were impossible. "So they want to stop us before we become a real threat," Jake concluded. "That's what I think," Dr. Carter said. "But Admiral, here's the thing. If they're this scared of us now, imagine how scared they'll be if we actually fight back." The room fell quiet again. Outside the window, Earth continued its slow rotation, beautiful and unaware. In 72 hours, everything would change forever. Jake made his decision. "Danny, get me every ship commander in the fleet. Ben, I want full tactical analysis of those alien ships. Lisa, keep monitoring their communications. Helen, try every back channel you have, but don't expect much." He paused and looked around the room at the faces of his officers. "These people would help decide humanity's future in the next 3 days. And someone get me a direct line to Earth's government. The president needs to know that we're about to make the biggest decision in human history." As his staff rushed to their tasks, Jake stayed at the window. The alien ships were too far away to see, but he knew they were out there. Hundreds of them, all pointed at humanity's home. 72 hours to decide between freedom and slavery. Jake already knew which one he would choose. The elevator went down for what felt like forever. Jake Morrison watched the numbers change on the display as they dropped deeper under the Rocky Mountains. Beside him stood the most important people on Earth. They had all come as fast as they could when the emergency call went out. General Chris Kelly, head of Earth's military, looked tired. He had been in meetings with world leaders for the past 6 hours, trying to explain something that seemed impossible to explain. Colonel Amy Turner, the tough woman who ran Earth's special forces, stared straight ahead with cold eyes. Dr. Sam Mitchell, the scientist who worked on Earth's most secret projects, kept checking his watch. "How deep does this go?" asked President Maria Santos. She had flown in from Geneva where the World Council was meeting. Her face showed the stress of the past day. Deep enough that even the alien sensors can't reach us, General Kelly replied. This bunker was built during the first contact with the Confederation. We hoped we'd never need to use it. The elevator finally stopped. Heavy metal doors opened to reveal a command center that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Screens covered every wall. Maps of the solar system showed the positions of every ship, human and alien. The red dots of the Confederation fleet looked like a disease spreading through space. Engineer Pete Johnson was already there, waiting for them. He had designed most of Earth's defensive systems over the past 10 years. His hands were covered in grease, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. Admiral Morrison, thank you for coming, Pete said. We have a lot to discuss. They sat around a large table in the center of the room. On the table's surface, a three-dimensional map of the solar system showed the current situation. It looked bad. Really bad. Colonel Turner spoke first. I've been digging through our intelligence files on the Confederation. What I found isn't good news. She pressed a button, and the wall screen showed images of different alien worlds. 12 years ago, the Vorthon species got an ultimatum just like ours. They were told to surrender their military and accept Confederation oversight. They said yes. The screen showed pictures of Vorthon cities, empty and abandoned. Where did they go? President Santos asked. Relocation camps on the edge of their solar system. The Confederation said it was for their own protection. The Vorthons haven't been allowed to leave those camps since. Amy's voice was flat and cold. 7 years ago, the same thing happened to the Kalari. 5 years ago, the Trenth. Every species that accepted the ultimatum disappeared from galactic politics. Dr. Mitchell leaned forward. What about the species that said no? Amy pressed another button. The screen showed burned worlds and empty space where solar systems used to be. The Zartak said no. The Confederation burned their homeworld to ash in 6 hours. The Polani tried to fight back. It took the aliens 12 hours to wipe them out completely. The room went quiet. Jake felt sick to his stomach. Either choice led to the end of human independence. Maybe the end of humanity itself. There has to be another option, President Santos said. What about negotiation? Compromise? Dr. Carter's voice came through the room's speakers. She was still on Luna Base, monitoring alien communications. Madam President, I've been listening to Confederation channels for the past day. They're not using the word negotiation anymore. They're using words like correction and final solution. Pete Johnson stood up and walked to a wall panel. That's why I asked you all to come here, because I think there might be a third option. He pressed several buttons, and the room's lights dimmed. New images appeared on the screens. For the past 5 years, I've been working on something the Confederation doesn't know about. We call it the Shadow Project. The screens showed blueprints of ships and weapons that looked nothing like current Earth technology. What am I looking at? General Kelly asked. New shield generators that bend light around our ships. Communication systems that use quantum encryption the aliens can't break. Weapons that fire faster than their computers can track. Pete's voice grew excited as he talked. The Confederation has been watching our official research projects. They don't know about the unofficial ones. Dr. Mitchell studied the blueprints. Pete, some of this technology shouldn't be possible with our current knowledge. How did you solve the quantum field problems? Pete smiled for the first time since the meeting started. That's the interesting part. We didn't solve them the way alien science says they should be solved. We ignored their rules and found our own way. Jake looked at the designs more carefully. The ships looked strange, almost organic. Their weapon systems were completely different from anything he had seen before. How many of these ships do we have? Right now, 3 prototypes hidden in the asteroid belt. But if we had a month, we could build 20 more. If we had 6 months, we could build 100. We don't have 6 months, Colonel Turner pointed out. We have 60 hours. I know, Pete said. But here's the thing. I don't think we need to win this war. I think we just need to survive it. President Santos looked confused. What do you mean? Dr. Mitchell was studying something on his datapad. He looked up with surprise on his face. I've been analyzing the Confederation's behavior patterns. Pete's right. They don't want to destroy us. They want to control us. Explain, Jake said. Look at their demands, Dr. Mitchell continued. They want our ships intact. They want our orbital platforms dismantled, not destroyed. They want our government to submit, not disappear. If they just wanted us dead, they would have started shooting already. Amy Turner was nodding slowly. He's right. This isn't an extermination. It's a capture operation. Which means they have rules they have to follow, Pete added. Rules about preserving what they're trying to capture. That gives us advantages. They don't expect. Jake was starting to understand. You're saying we make this too expensive for them? Exactly. The Confederation has controlled the galaxy for 1,000 years by making resistance seem hopeless. Species see their huge fleets and give up without fighting. But what if we don't give up? Dr. Carter's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, I'm picking up some interesting chatter on the alien channels. Some of the Confederation species are asking questions about why this operation needs so many ships. A few are wondering if humanity is more dangerous than they were told. Colonel Turner smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. They're already starting to worry. Good. President Santos looked around the table. So what exactly are you all proposing? That we fight an unwinnable war just to make a point? Not to make a point, Jake said. To make a statement. To show every other species in the galaxy that the Confederation can be fought. General Kelly was studying the tactical displays. Our regular fleet wouldn't last an hour against their numbers. But if we combine conventional tactics with Pete's new technology... He paused, running calculations in his head. We might be able to hold out for weeks instead of hours. And every day we hold out, more species start asking questions. Dr. Mitchell added. The Confederation's power depends on everyone believing they're unbeatable. If we prove that wrong, we change everything, Pete finished. President Santos was quiet for a long time. She looked at each person around the table, then at the screens showing the alien fleet surrounding Earth. Finally, she spoke. What are the chances we actually survive this? Amy Turner answered honestly. Maybe 10%. Maybe less. And if we surrender? 0%. We'll be alive, but we won't be human anymore. We'll be pets in alien cages. The president stood up and walked to the main display. Earth hung in the center, surrounded by red dots that represented enemy ships. 4 billion people lived on that blue world, all of them depending on the decisions made in this room. Admiral Morrison, she said, what's your recommendation? Jake had been thinking about this question since the ultimatum arrived. He thought about his daughter. He thought about all the humans who would die if they chose to fight. He thought about all the humans who would live as slaves if they chose to surrender. Madam President, I've studied military history my whole life. Every time a free people chose slavery to avoid a fight, they regretted it. Every single time. He stood up and joined her at the display. The aliens are right about one thing. Humans are dangerous. We're dangerous because we don't know when to quit. We're dangerous because we find solutions to impossible problems. We're dangerous because we'd rather die free than live as slaves. He turned to face the others. I say we show them exactly how dangerous we can be. Dr. Mitchell was looking at something on his screen. Admiral, I'm getting reports from our deep space monitors. The Confederation fleet isn't just from the species we know about. There are ships from races we've never seen before. This operation is bigger than anything in recorded galactic history. How many ships total? General Kelly asked. Best guess? Over 3,000. The room fell silent. 3,000 ships against Earth's 43 combat vessels. It wasn't a battle. It was barely a target practice session, but Pete Johnson was smiling. 3,000 ships to capture one small planet? They're terrified of us. Colonel Turner was nodding. If they only needed 100 ships, they'd send 100. If they need 3,000, it means they think we might actually hurt them. Jake made his decision. Madam President, I recommend we reject the ultimatum. I recommend we fight. President Santos looked around the room one more time. Every face showed the same determination. These people understood what they were choosing. They understood the cost. Then we fight, she said. God help us all, but we fight. As if on cue, alarms began sounding throughout the bunker. Dr. Carter's voice came through the speakers, urgent and worried. Admiral, the Confederation fleet is moving. They're not waiting for the full 72 hours. They're coming now. Jake looked at the tactical display. The red dots were moving inward, toward Earth. The war was about to begin. How long until they reach our outer defenses? He asked. 6 hours, sir. Jake turned to his staff. You heard the lady. We have 6 hours to get ready for the fight of our lives. Pete, how fast can you get those prototype ships online? Give me 4 hours, Pete replied. Amy, I need every Special Forces team ready for ground operations. They'll be ready, sir. Chris, coordinate with all planetary defense systems. I want every gun pointed up. Yes, sir. President Santos was already on her phone, calling world leaders. I need to address the planet. People deserve to know what's coming. As everyone rushed to their tasks, Jake stayed at the display. In a few hours, the most powerful fleet in galactic history would arrive at Earth. They expected humanity to surrender without a fight. They were about to learn they were wrong. The Confederation fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly when their computers predicted they would. 3,000 ships of every size and shape imaginable, each one representing a different alien species that had joined the Galactic Alliance over the past millennium. They moved in perfect formation, like a giant metal cloud drifting toward the small blue world that had dared to defy them. Admiral Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the New Horizon as the enemy fleet took positions around Earth. Captain Ben Rodriguez stood beside him, studying the tactical displays with grim concentration. The numbers were worse than they had feared. Their latest count showed over 3,200 ships, some of them larger than anything in Earth's database. Sir, incoming transmission from the Confederation flagship, Lieutenant Danny Cooper reported from his station. They're requesting our surrender. Jake straightened his uniform. He had practiced what he would say for hours, but now that the moment was here, the words seemed too small for what they meant. Put them through, he said. The main screen flickered, then showed the interior of an alien ship, unlike anything humans had ever seen. The arbitrator stood in the center, its crystalline body reflecting light in strange patterns. Around it, representatives from dozens of species watched silently. Admiral Morrison! The arbitrator's voice came through the speakers like grinding metal. You have had time to consider our offer. The Confederation Council awaits your decision. Jake looked directly into the alien's multifaceted eyes. We've considered your offer. Earth's answer is no. For a moment, the arbitrator said nothing. It seemed genuinely surprised that humans would reject surrender when faced with such overwhelming odds. Admiral, you cannot possibly believe your small fleet can stand against the combined might of 3,000 ships. Your resistance is pointless. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with mercy. We know the kind of mercy you showed the Vorthans and the Kalari, Jake replied. We've seen your relocation camps. We've seen what happens to species that trust Confederation promises. The arbitrator's form seemed to shimmer with anger. Those species chose to resist Confederation guidance. They brought their fate upon themselves. You can avoid their mistakes by accepting our authority. Captain Ben Rodriguez stepped forward. Earth stands free, he said simply. The screen went black. For 30 seconds, space around Earth remained silent. Then, the attack began. The first wave came from the Confederation's long-range ships. Beams of pure energy lanced across the darkness, targeting Earth's orbital defense platforms. The weapons were precise and devastating, designed to cripple human defenses without damaging the planet below. But the aliens had made their first mistake. They had underestimated human engineering. Commander Kate Phillips watched from her hidden position in the asteroid belt as the enemy beams struck Earth's orbital platforms. Instead of exploding, the platforms simply vanished. The alien weapons passed harmlessly through empty space, where the human defenses had been moments before. Stealth fields are working perfectly, Kate reported over the quantum communication channel. They can't hit what they can't see. Pete Johnson's prototype ships had been equipped with revolutionary cloaking technology that bent light and energy around them. The orbital platforms hadn't been destroyed. They had simply become invisible. The Confederation fleet paused, confused by what their sensors were telling them. According to their readings, they had successfully destroyed all of Earth's defenses. But their victory felt hollow and strange. That's when the real battle began. Captain Tony Lee commanded Alpha Prime, one of Earth's most powerful defense stations. From his invisible position above Earth's North Pole, he had a clear shot at the alien command ships. "All weapons, target the large crystalline ship in the center of their formation," he ordered. "Full power." Alpha Prime's main guns opened fire. The weapons used technology that Pete Johnson had developed in secret. Projectiles that moved faster than alien sensors could track, guided by quantum computers that thought in ways no alien mind could predict. The Confederation flagship shuddered as human weapons found their mark. Alien shields flared and sparked under the unexpected assault. For the first time in 1,000 years, someone had drawn blood from a Confederation fleet. Impossible. The arbitrator's voice came across all frequencies. "Where are those weapons coming from?" Lieutenant Danny Cooper was piloting one of the new prototype fighters, hidden among the debris of an old mining station. He smiled as he heard the aliens' confusion. "Right here," he said, and launched himself directly at a group of enemy ships. Danny's fighter was small and fast, designed for exactly this kind of mission. He wove between the massive alien vessels, his weapons carving through their hulls like a knife through paper. The aliens tried to target him, but their computers couldn't predict his flight path. Human pilot instincts were too random, too creative for alien tactical programs. In 10 minutes, Danny had destroyed 5 enemy ships and damaged a dozen more, before vanishing back into the asteroid field. All around the solar system, similar attacks began. Commander Phillips led her stealth squadron in precision strikes against enemy command vessels. Captain Lee's defense platforms appeared from nowhere to deliver devastating attacks, then disappeared again before the aliens could return fire. But Earth's forces were still vastly outnumbered. For every alien ship they destroyed, 10 more took its place. The Confederation had come prepared for a long siege, and they began to adapt to human tactics. Admiral Jake Morrison knew they couldn't keep this up forever. "Ben, how are our casualties?" "We've lost 12 ships and 1 defense platform," Captain Rodriguez replied. "But, sir, we've destroyed over 60 alien vessels and damaged many more. The casualty ratio is better than we hoped." Dr. Lisa Carter's voice came through the communication system from Luna Base. "Admiral, I'm monitoring alien communications. They're arguing among themselves. Several species are questioning why this operation is taking so long." That was encouraging, but Jake knew it wouldn't be enough. The aliens were learning from each engagement. Their tactics were improving. Soon, they would find ways to counter human advantages. The turning point came when the Confederation decided to target Earth's civilian population. "All ships, begin bombardment of major population centers," the arbitrator ordered. "If the humans will not surrender, we will give them proper motivation." Energy beams began falling on Earth's cities. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, all came under attack from orbital bombardment. The weapons were designed to destroy buildings while leaving most people alive. The Confederation wanted to break human morale, not exterminate the species. But they had made their second mistake. They had underestimated what humans would do when their families were threatened. Captain Joe Martinez had been holding his experimental ship Earth's Fury in reserve, waiting for the right moment. When he saw alien weapons falling on his hometown of Houston, that moment arrived. "This is Captain Martinez to all human forces," he broadcast. "They want to hurt our families. Time to show them what that costs." Earth's Fury was the most advanced ship Pete Johnson had ever designed. It could appear anywhere in the solar system within seconds, strike with devastating force, then vanish before enemy weapons could lock on. But more than its technology, it was the fury of its human crew that made it dangerous. Joe targeted the alien ships that were bombing Earth. He appeared directly behind a massive Confederation battleship, fired every weapon he had, then jumped. To a position ab minutes, he had crippled 6 ships that were attacking civilian targets. The battle turned into a free-for-all. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck with desperate fury, then either escaped or died trying. Alien formations began to break apart as they tried to respond to attacks coming from every direction at once. Dr. Sam Mitchell watched the tactical display from the underground command center. "They're not fighting like a military anymore," he observed. "They're fighting like a family protecting their children." President Maria Santos had been coordinating civilian evacuations from major cities. Now she watched as human forces threw themselves at alien ships with no regard for their own safety. How long can they keep this up? Not long, General Chris Kelly replied honestly. We're losing ships faster than we can replace them. But look at this. He pointed to a section of the tactical display where alien ships were pulling back from Earth orbit. Some of the Confederation species are starting to withdraw. They didn't sign up for this kind of fight. Jake Morrison was still on the bridge of New Horizon, coordinating the human defense. His ship had been damaged in 3 separate engagements, but she was still fighting. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, even as alien weapons shook their vessel with each near miss. "Sir, incoming message from Alpha Prime," Danny Cooper reported. "Captain Lee says his station is surrounded. He's taking heavy fire." Jake looked at the tactical display. Tony Lee's defense platform was indeed surrounded by alien ships. They had finally located it despite its stealth systems, and they were concentrating overwhelming firepower on its position. "Tell Tony to evacuate his crew and abandon the station," Jake ordered. But Captain Lee had other plans. His voice came through the communication system, calm despite the desperate situation. "Negative, Admiral. Alpha Prime still has fight left in her. And, sir, these alien ships are packed pretty close together around my position." Jake understood immediately. "Tony, no. There has to be another way. Admiral, it's been an honor serving with you. Take care of my family." The communication ended. Alpha Prime's nuclear reactor went critical 30 seconds later. The explosion vaporized Tony's station and everything within 50,000 kilometers. 17 Confederation ships died in that one blast, along with Captain Tony Lee and his crew of 43 brave humans. The sacrifice bought Earth precious time. The alien fleet pulled back to regroup, shocked by the human willingness to die rather than surrender. In that moment of pause, something unexpected happened. Dr. Carter's voice came through all communication channels, excited and urgent. "Admiral, you need to hear this. I'm picking up transmissions from other star systems. Word of our fight is spreading across the galaxy." Jake's heart leaped. "What kind of transmissions?" "Species that have been under Confederation control for decades are talking about what Earth is doing. Some of them are asking why humans are fighting so hard. Others are asking why the Confederation needs 3,000 ships to capture one small planet." The arbitrator's voice suddenly broke through human communications. "Admiral Morrison, you have seen what resistance costs. Surrender now, and no more of your people need to die." Jake looked around his damaged bridge. Half his crew was injured. His ship was running on backup power. Outside, the remains of Alpha Prime were still glowing in the darkness. But his people were still fighting. "Arbitrator," Jake replied, "you wanted to see what humans are made of. Now you know. We don't surrender. We don't give up. And we don't stop fighting for our freedom." The alien's response was cold with anger. "Then you will all die for your foolish pride." "Maybe," Jake said, "but we'll die free. And everyone in the galaxy will know that humans chose death over slavery." As if to prove his point, signals began coming in from across Earth's solar system. Ships that had been presumed destroyed were checking in, their crews battered but still ready to fight. Orbital platforms that had been hiding in asteroid fields were requesting new targeting coordinates. Even civilian ships were asking how they could help in the battle. The Confederation had wanted to make an example of humanity. They were about to learn that some examples inspire more than they intimidate. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the ultimatum arrived, Jake Morrison allowed himself to hope that humanity might actually survive this fight. 3 months had passed since the first shots were fired above Earth. The war, that the Confederation expected to end in hours, had turned into a grinding nightmare that showed no signs of stopping. Alien ships controlled most of Earth's orbit and had landed forces on every continent, but humanity refused to surrender. Dr. Rachel Davis worked in a hidden laboratory deep beneath the ruins of Chicago. Above her, Confederation patrol ships searched for human resistance fighters. She could hear their engines through the thick concrete ceiling as they passed overhead. But down here, 50 meters underground, she was building weapons that would have been impossible just months ago. "Hand me that quantum processor," she said. To her assistant, a young engineer named Tim, who had volunteered for the resistance after his home in Miami was destroyed. Together, they worked on devices that turned everyday objects into tools of war. Rachel had spent the past 3 months doing something that would have horrified her in peacetime. She had weaponized everything she could think of. Mining explosives became smart bombs that could think for themselves. Agricultural satellites became orbital weapons platforms. Even the automated subway systems in major cities had been turned into supply lines for resistance fighters. "Dr. Davis," Tim said, looking up from his work, "the magnetic field generators are ready. We can deploy them whenever Sergeant Thompson gives the signal." Sergeant Mike Thompson commanded the Chicago Resistance Cell from a network of tunnels that connected to the old underground train system. He had been a regular soldier before the war started. Now he was something the Confederation had never seen before, a human guerrilla fighter with access to advanced technology. Mike's fighters had learned to disappear into the civilian population like ghosts. They would strike an alien patrol, kill or wound several enemies, then vanish completely before reinforcements could arrive. The aliens had sensors that could detect most hidden objects, but they couldn't tell the difference between a resistance fighter and a regular citizen until it was too late. Team 3 reports successful strike on alien supply depot, reported Linda, one of Mike's most trusted fighters. She was barely 20 years old, but the war had aged her beyond her years. 17 enemy casualties, no losses on our side. Mike studied the map on his tablet. Red marks showed alien positions throughout the city. Green marks showed human resistance cells. Blue marks showed civilian safe areas that both sides tried to avoid hitting. The map looked like a complicated puzzle with no clear solution. "Good work," Mike said. "Tell Team 3 to lay low for 48 hours. The aliens always increase patrols after we hit their supply lines." Above ground, the aliens controlled Chicago. They had military checkpoints on every major street. Their patrols moved through the city in armored vehicles that could survive most human weapons. But they couldn't be everywhere at once, and they couldn't tell friend from enemy in a population that all looked the same to alien eyes. Meanwhile, high above the planet, Admiral Susan Clark commanded what remained of Earth's space forces from a mobile command base hidden in the asteroid belt. Jake Morrison had been badly injured in a battle 2 months ago, and Susan had taken over the fleet while he recovered on a secret medical station. Susan was different from Jake, younger, more aggressive, and absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting humanity. She had taken the scattered remains of Earth's fleet and turned them into something the aliens couldn't predict or counter. "Captain Martinez, what's the status on the new prototype ships?" she asked. Captain Joe Martinez appeared on the communication screen from his secret base on one of Jupiter's moons. Behind him, human workers were building ships using designs that Pete Johnson had developed in his hidden laboratories. "We've completed 12 new vessels, Admiral. They're ready for combat testing." Joe looked tired but determined. His ship Earth's Fury had become legendary among both human and alien forces. Some Confederation species whispered that it was impossible to destroy, that it could appear anywhere in the solar system without warning. "Excellent," Susan replied. "I have a mission for you." For months, the war had followed a predictable pattern. Humans would strike alien positions and disappear. Aliens would retaliate by attacking human positions that were no longer occupied. Both sides were taking casualties, but neither could deliver a decisive blow. That was about to change. Dr. Emma Ross had been working on something that could shift the balance of the war. From her laboratory on Mars, she had developed a breakthrough that even Pete Johnson hadn't thought was possible. "Admiral Clark?" Emma's voice came through the quantum communications system. "Project Prometheus is ready for testing." Susan felt her heart race. Project Prometheus was humanity's most secret weapon, a communication system that could reach any point in the galaxy instantly. If it worked, it would allow human resistance fighters to coordinate their efforts across multiple star systems. "Are you certain it's ready?" Susan asked. "If the aliens detect our test transmission?" "They won't," Emma replied confidently. "The signal operates on quantum frequencies that their sensors can't detect. We could broadcast to every inhabited planet in the galaxy, and they would never know." Susan made her decision. "Begin the test. Send a signal to the Vorthon system." The Vorthons were one of the species that had surrendered to the Confederation 12 years ago. According to official records, they were living peacefully in their assigned relocation areas. But human intelligence suggested something very different was happening in the Vorthon camps. Dr. Emma Ross activated her quantum transmitter. The message was simple. "This is Earth calling. If you can hear this, you are not alone. Humanity remembers the free Vorthon people." The response came back within minutes. Earth forces, this is Commander Zeth of the Free Vorthan Resistance. We have been waiting 12 years for someone to remember us. How can we help? Susan felt tears in her eyes. For the first time since the war began, humanity wasn't fighting alone. Over the next few hours, more responses came in from across the galaxy. The Kalari resistance had been hiding in the mountains of their homeworld for 7 years. The Trenth survivors had been secretly building ships in hidden asteroid bases. Dozens of species that the Confederation claimed to have peacefully integrated were actually fighting underground wars for their freedom. Admiral, Dr. Ross reported, we're receiving responses from 47 different star systems. The Confederation hasn't been as successful as they claimed. Half the galaxy is in some form of rebellion. Ambassador David Park had been working in secret for months, making contact with sympathetic alien species within the Confederation itself. Now he emerged from his hidden base on Europa with shocking news. Admiral Clark, David's message was, encrypted with the highest security codes. I've been in contact with representatives from 12 Confederation member species. They're questioning the Council's decision to attack Earth. Some of them are considering withdrawing from the Alliance entirely. This was the breakthrough Susan had been hoping for. The Confederation's power came from the unity of its member species. If that unity began to crack, their overwhelming advantage would disappear. What do they want? Susan asked. Proof that the Confederation can be defeated. They've been controlled by fear for so long that they can't imagine resistance being successful. But if we can show them... David paused. Admiral, I think we can turn this war around. The opportunity came when Confederation forces launched their largest offensive yet. The arbitrator had grown tired of the prolonged resistance and decided to end the war with overwhelming force. 300 of their most powerful ships began a systematic bombardment of Earth's major cities. But the aliens had made a critical mistake. They had concentrated too many of their forces in one place. Susan assembled every available human ship for a coordinated counterattack. Captain Martinez led the charge with Earth's Fury and the new prototype vessels. Commander Phillips brought her stealth squadron out of hiding. Even damaged ships that could barely fly joined the assault. This is Admiral Clark to all human forces, Susan broadcast on all frequencies. Today we show the galaxy that the Confederation can be beaten. For Earth, for freedom, and for every species that dreams of being free again. The battle was unlike anything seen in galactic history. Human ships appeared from every direction at once, using tactics that no alien computer could predict. They fought with desperate courage, knowing that this might be humanity's last chance to prove they could stand against the Confederation. But more importantly, they fought knowing that the entire galaxy was watching. Dr. Emma Ross had modified her quantum communication system to broadcast the battle in real time to every inhabited world in the galaxy. For the first time in 1,000 years, oppressed species could see the Confederation fleet being challenged by a determined enemy. The humans were outnumbered 10-1, but they were fighting on their home ground with nothing left to lose. Captain Martinez's ship danced between alien vessels like a deadly butterfly, striking and vanishing before enemy weapons could target him. Commander Phillips led precision attacks that crippled alien command ships. Even the damaged vessels fought with stubborn determination, refusing to retreat even when their situation became hopeless. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it ended, Earth still stood free, and 137 Confederation ships had been destroyed or disabled. But the real victory wasn't counted in ships. It was measured in the messages that began flooding in from across the galaxy. This is the Kalari resistance. We're launching simultaneous attacks on Confederation positions throughout our system. Free Vorthan forces report successful capture of 3 enemy installations. The Palani survivors are joining the fight. Our home may be gone, but our people live. For the first time in a millennium, the Confederation faced coordinated resistance from multiple species across dozens of star systems. Their greatest weapon, the fear that resistance was hopeless, had been shattered by humanity's refusal to surrender. Susan Clark looked at the tactical displays showing rebellion spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Human forces were battered and reduced to half their original strength. Earth's cities lay in ruins. Millions of people had died in the fighting, but humanity had accomplished something that no other species had managed in 1,000 years. They had proven that the Confederation could be fought. Admiral, Dr. Ross reported from Mars, we're receiving surrender requests from Confederation forces in 17 different star systems. Some of their member species are withdrawing from the Alliance entirely. Susan smiled for the first time. In months. The war was far from over, but the tide had turned. Humanity's stubborn refusal to accept defeat had sparked a galaxy-wide revolution. Send a message to all human forces, she ordered. Tell them they've done the impossible. Tell them the galaxy is fighting back. The war that began with humanity standing alone had become something the Confederation never imagined possible, a galaxy-wide revolution. 6 months after Earth's defiance, rebellion burned across 47 star systems. The alien alliance, that had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years, was crumbling from within. General Lisa Chang commanded the final offensive from a rebuilt command center on Luna Base. The structure that had been heavily damaged in the early days of the war, now buzzed with activity from dozens of different species. Humans worked alongside Vorthons, Kalari, Trenth survivors, and representatives from 12 former Confederation member species who had switched sides. General Chang, we're receiving final confirmation from all Allied fleets, reported Captain Sandra White, the human officer who coordinated communications with the Rebel Alliance. Operation Prometheus is ready to begin. Lisa studied the massive tactical display that now covered an entire wall of the command center. It showed not just Earth's solar system, but the positions of ships and fleets across half the galaxy. Red dots marked Confederation forces, blue dots showed the various rebel fleets, and green dots indicated the systems that had declared independence from alien rule. For the first time since the war began, the blue dots outnumbered the red ones. How? Are our forces holding up? Lisa asked. Commander Rick Stone, who now commanded the rebuilt Earth fleet from the flagship New Hope, appeared on the communication screen. Behind him, the bridge showed a mix of human and alien officers working together. General, morale is high across all fleets. The humans are ready, and our alien allies are more determined than I've ever seen them. Admiral Jake Morrison, recovered from his injuries and now serving as strategic advisor, limped over to join the conversation. His left leg had been badly damaged when his ship was destroyed 4 months ago, but his mind was as sharp as ever. Lisa, I've been reviewing the intelligence reports from our allies inside the Confederation, Jake said. The arbitrator is desperate. Half their member species have either withdrawn from the Alliance or are openly considering it. They're facing the complete collapse of their 1,000-year empire. Dr. Emma Ross had expanded her quantum communication network to connect rebel forces across the entire galaxy. From her new laboratory on a captured Confederation station, she could coordinate the actions of millions of fighters on hundreds of worlds. General Chang, Emma's voice came through the speakers. I'm detecting massive fleet movements from the Confederation core worlds. It looks like they're pull-in cells and supply ships that they've converted into combat units. The room fell silent. Even with all their new allies, the combined rebel fleet numbered fewer than 3,000 ships. The Confederation was betting everything on one massive offensive to crush the rebellion before it could spread further. Ambassador David Park had been working behind the scenes to convince more alien species to abandon the Confederation. Now he brought news that changed everything. General, I've just received confirmation from our contacts inside the Confederation Council, David reported from his secret base. 17 more species have voted to withdraw from the Alliance, but more importantly, they're taking their fleets with them. Lisa felt hope rising in her chest. What does that mean for their final offensive? They've lost almost half their ships in the past week. But the remaining species are the ones most loyal to the old system. They're also the most desperate to stop the rebellion from spreading. Captain Joe Martinez had become something of a legend during the months of fighting. His ship Earth's Fury had been in more battles than any other vessel in human history, always appearing where the fighting was heaviest. Now, he brought intelligence from deep inside Confederation space. General, I've been scouting their staging area, Joe reported. The aliens aren't just planning to attack our military forces. They're planning to destroy every world that has declared independence. They'd rather rule over empty systems than lose control completely. This was the nightmare scenario that human strategists had always feared. The Confederation was prepared to commit genocide on a galactic scale rather than accept defeat. Billions of innocent people would die if the alien offensive succeeded. Dr. Sam Mitchell had spent the months since the war began working on humanity's most desperate plan. From a secret research station hidden in an unnamed star system, he had developed something that could end the war in one decisive stroke. "General Chang, Project Freedom is ready for deployment," Sam announced over the quantum communication network. "But you need to understand, if we use this weapon, there's no going back. The galaxy will never be the same." Lisa had read the classified reports about Project Freedom. It was a virus designed to infect the quantum communication networks that the Confederation used to control their empire. Once released, it would spread through every alien system, shutting down their ability to coordinate fleet movements or govern their member species. It was exactly the kind of weapon that could end the war quickly. It was also the kind of weapon that could cause chaos across hundreds of worlds as governmental systems collapsed. "Dr. Mitchell, what are the risks?" Lisa asked. "Some Confederation worlds might descend into anarchy when their control systems fail. Others might split into civil wars between different factions. We could be trading one war for dozens of smaller conflicts." General Chris Kelly, who had been coordinating ground operations across multiple worlds, joined the discussion. "Lisa, we're running out of options. Intelligence reports suggest the Confederation offensive will launch within hours. If we don't act now, we might not get another chance." Lisa looked around the command center at the faces of humans and aliens working together. These people had fought together, bled together, and died together for the dream of galactic freedom. The decision she made in the next few minutes would determine whether their sacrifices meant anything. "Dr. Mitchell, begin deployment of Project Freedom," she ordered. "All fleet commanders, prepare for Operation Prometheus. We end this war today." The final battle began in the Centauri system, where the largest Confederation fleet in Galactic history had assembled for their desperate offensive. 8,000 alien ships arranged in perfect formations, ready to crush the rebellion once and for all. They never got the chance to fire their first shots. Dr. Emma Ross activated the quantum virus from her hidden laboratory. The invisible signal spread through Confederation communication networks faster than the speed of light, infecting every computer system connected to their command structure. Within minutes, the perfectly coordinated alien fleet began to fall apart. Ships lost contact with their commanders. Navigation systems began giving contradictory orders. Weapons systems shut down as their targeting computers crashed. Commander Rick Stone led the combined rebel fleet in a coordinated attack on the confused Confederation forces. But instead of trying to destroy the alien ships, they transmitted surrender demands on all frequencies. "This is the Free Galaxy Alliance to all Confederation forces," Rick broadcast. "Your command structure has been disabled. Your empire is finished. Surrender now, and you will be treated with honor." The response was faster than anyone expected. Alien ships began surrendering by the dozens, then by the hundreds. Species that had been forced to serve the Confederation for centuries finally had the chance to choose freedom. The Arbitrator's flagship was one of the last to give up the fight. When it finally powered down its weapons, the 1,000-year Confederation empire officially came to an end. But the real work was just beginning. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the new orbital platform that had been built above Earth to serve as the headquarters for the Free Galaxy Alliance. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from 70 different species docked peacefully at the station. It had been 1 year since the Confederation's surrender. The galaxy was still recovering from the chaos that followed the collapse of the old empire, but new governments were forming based on cooperation rather than conquest. Dr. Lisa Carter, now serving as Earth's chief diplomatic officer, joined Jake at the window. "It's hard to believe how much has changed," she said. "A year ago, we were fighting for our survival. Now we're helping to rebuild the galaxy." Jake nodded. The past year had been difficult in ways that the war never was. It was easier to fight an enemy than to build a new civilization from the ruins of the old one. But humanity had thrown itself into the task of galactic reconstruction with the same stubborn determination they had shown in battle. "Any word from the Outer Rim systems?" Jake asked. "The Kelari have successfully established their new government," Lisa replied. "The Vorthons are rebuilding their homeworld. Even some of the former Confederation species are adapting to self-rule better than we expected. Through the stations, Speakers, they could hear the constant chatter of dozens of different languages as traders, diplomats, and tourists from across the galaxy went about their business. The sound that had once represented the oppressive control of an alien empire now represented the free exchange of ideas between independent peoples. President Maria Santos approached them, carrying a datapad with the latest reports from across the galaxy. She looked older than she had at the start of the war, but there was a satisfaction in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Jake, Lisa, I wanted to share some good news," Maria said. "We just received confirmation that the Trenth survivors have successfully terraformed their new homeworld. They're calling it New Hope." Jake smiled. The Trenth had lost their original world to Confederation bombardment decades ago, but they had never given up the dream of having a home again. Now, with help from human terraforming technology and support from the Free Galaxy Alliance, they were rebuilding their civilization from scratch. "What about the other refugee species?" Lisa asked. "All of them have been offered new worlds, or the chance to return to their original homes," Maria replied. "Some are choosing to stay on Earth, or other human colonies. They say they want to live among the people who gave them back their freedom." A young officer approached their group. It was Lieutenant Danny Cooper, now promoted to commander and serving as Jake's aide. In his hands, he carried a message that had just arrived through the quantum communication network. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the far edge of the galaxy," Danny reported. "It's from a species we've never contacted before. They say they heard about what happened here and they want to join the Free Galaxy Alliance." Jake took the message and read it carefully. The transmission was from a species called the Zenari, who lived in a distant spiral arm that the Confederation had never reached. They had heard stories of the rebellion through traders and refugees, and they wanted to be part of this new galactic civilization. "Send them a reply," Jake instructed. "Tell them they're welcome to join us, and that we look forward to learning from their culture." As Danny hurried away to send the response, Jake reflected on how much had changed. The war had started with humanity standing alone, against overwhelming odds. It was ending with the formation of the largest voluntary alliance in galactic history. Dr. Emma Ross appeared on the communication screen from her new laboratory on Mars. Behind her, human and alien scientists worked together on projects that would have been impossible under Confederation rule. "Admiral, I wanted to update you on our latest project," Emma said. "We've successfully completed the first test of our new faster-than-light communication system. Ships from any member species can now stay in contact with their homeworlds, no matter how far they travel. This was the technology that would make the Free Galaxy Alliance possible. Unlike the Confederation's centralized control system, this network was designed to connect independent worlds without allowing any single government to dominate the others." "Excellent work, Emma," Jake replied. "How soon can we begin full deployment?" "Within 6 months, every member world will be connected. Admiral, I have to say, this is everything we fought for. A galaxy where information flows freely, where species can learn from each other without fear, where no one has to fight alone." As the day ended, Jake remained on the observation deck, watching the ships come and go from Unity Station. Each vessel represented a different world, a different culture, a different way of looking at the universe. Yet they all flew under the same banner now, the symbol of the Free Galaxy Alliance. The symbol itself was simple, a blue circle representing Earth, surrounded by stars representing all the other worlds that had chosen freedom over security, independence over submission. Year ago, when the Confederation delivered its ultimatum, humanity had been forced to choose between survival and freedom. They had chosen freedom, not knowing that their choice would inspire an entire galaxy to remember what it meant to be free. Now, as ships from dozens of species worked together to explore the unknown regions of space, as scientists shared discoveries that would benefit all peoples, as former enemies learned to build a better future together, Jake Morrison knew that humanity had made the right choice. The war was over. The galaxy was free, and somewhere out there, in the vast unexplored regions of space, other species were receiving the same message that Earth had first broadcast during its darkest hour. This is the Free Galaxy Alliance calling. If you can, hear this message. Know that you are not alone. No matter how impossible your situation seems, freedom is always worth fighting for. We learned this the hard way, And we're here to help you learn it too. The future was uncertain, as futures always are. There would be new challenges, new conflicts, new problems to solve. But for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy faced those challenges as free peoples, united by choice rather than conquered by force. And it all began because one small, blue world chose defiance over submission, hope over despair, and freedom over safety. Humanity had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to a tyrant is simply refuse to be afraid.